Welcome to the Clutch Time Podcast with your host, Daniel Kreider and Ryan Vargas. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everybody. Happy New Year. Got all kinds of stuff to talk about. Come on, bring it in. Yep, got to do that. Got to let that ride out a little bit. All kinds of stuff. NCAA, football, basketball, NFL, NBA. Got all kinds of stuff to talk about. I feel like the real college football games took place this last week. No disrespect to anybody else, but let's just keep it real.
That's incredibly disrespectful, Dan. All these are real college football games. My God.
Well, you know,
he speaks the truth.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. The most interesting games to me, not all of them, but a majority of them happened this last week. But yeah, that's just my opinion. But anyway, how you fellas doing?
Doing good, man. New year 2022. Here we are. It's good to see you guys again.
I was doing okay until you disrespected, I would say, about 75% of the bowl games here, Dan. I just wanted to make this clear to the audience. 3% of these kids are going to the NFL. So for a lot of these, this is the last game that they'll ever play college sports. So for all you fringe teams that don't make it on Dan's hierarchy of upper echelons of talent and bowl games that he's willing to watch, I hear Ryan Palmer at Clutch Time Sports watched all your games, and I am thrilled, except for you, BYU. How dare you, as a ranked team, lose to a scrub team? And Dan, I'm sorry for coming down on you on the show, but I was caught off guard.
No, I just speak truth. That's just facts. That's just how it is. I'm sorry, man. You can get in your feelings later and get over it. But anyway, that's the way it rolls.
Well, as a millennial, you're not too far off. I am up into my feelings. Now, did you guys do any New Year's resolutions? By any chance?
I'm working on mine. I got all kinds of resolutions. The more I thought about it, I thought, good Lord, I got a lot of stuff to make a resolution for.
Yeah, I got some for sure. You know, I try to keep them going. I feel like for me, it's being disciplined with my time. You know, getting up at a certain time in the morning is huge for me. Conquering that morning. Health. Focusing on health, mental, physical, spiritual health, all that good stuff. Yeah. What about you, Palmer?
Yeah. My New Year's resolutions, at least to get an hour of TV every day, whether it's in the morning or the nighttime. You know, with New Year's resolutions, I found out that you got to keep it simple. You know, it's just get that ball rolling. And, you know, a lot of people fail their New Year's resolutions because they take on too much more than they can chew. So it's brush my teeth every morning and watch about an hour of TV every day. And I feel like I'm going to get my New Year's resolutions done this year.
Yeah, boy. That's how you do that right there.
Hey, and if you fail, dude, like, don't be hard on yourself. Like, it happens. Just get back up and keep trying, man.
Yeah. So, you know, some days I might even get an hour and a half of TV. It just really depends. But if I'm not brushing my teeth every day, maybe I should consult a health physician or my dentist.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Shoot. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it, man. Alabama beats Cincy 27-6. Georgia beats Michigan 34-11. Ohio State beat Utah 48-45. Marvin Harrison Jr. actually, and Smith. I don't want to even try to pronounce that because I'd just destroy it. But anyway, they both had 3 touchdowns each. Arkansas beat Penn State 24-10. Oklahoma State beat Notre Dame 37-5. So that's a lot to unravel. What's you guys' thoughts on those games?
Well, before we hand it over to our football analyst, I will say, man, I was pretty high on Michigan. I was, and let's just say it backfired. You know, me and my brother-in-law were watching that game, and we were watching the players walk out for the coin toss, and it literally looked like a college team getting ready to play a high school team when you were just looking at the size difference in those boys. And I don't know, Michigan's in what, the Big Ten?
Yeah.
Big Ten, and I was kind of hyping up the Big Ten. I'm like, well, dude, like, you know, you got Ohio State, Penn State, and my brother-in-law was like, nah, dude, like, they won't stand a chance. And sure enough, it was ugly. Michigan didn't even look like they belonged on the field with Georgia. Michigan had a great season in a year where Harbaugh was kind of on the ropes. It was cool to see them build something special. But yeah, I was just blown away, man, at how much of a gap it was between those two teams. That's all I got.
I'm going to get my mic up here. This is a vacuum hose for you guys who were wondering, because I'm about to clean up this place with my football takes. Well, and it's really funny. Let's go right into that game since you brought it up. You have the Big Ten outright champion versus the team that couldn't win the SEC. That should tell everybody something. The SEC is a cut above everybody else. And Ryan, you and I were watching the same game. I'm assuming Dan was watching the same game. I would agree. I mean, the best defensive end in the nation, quote unquote, couldn't get to the quarterback. I mean, he did sometimes, but I mean, I'm going to try to clean up my language because of last week. I feel like that was my total curse counter for the entire show. But they got their butts whooped, and it was kind of like the older brother kind of playing with the younger brother and taking their fist and punching them with their brother's fist, saying, why do you keep hitting yourself? Why do you keep hitting yourself? And it really just kind of comes down to recruiting. Recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. And if you look at the top two teams, for the last 5 years, you're looking at Alabama and Georgia, and it shows. Absolutely, scheming and coaching and development does play a role. That's why Michigan got to the national championship playoffs. But at the end of the day, it just kind of comes down to who's got the best athletes and who can really develop those guys. And right now you're seeing that in Alabama and Georgia. And as much as I hate giving credit to Dan on his own show, he was right. You have Alabama, you have Georgia, and you have everybody else. It might not have manifested in the season, particularly with the way Alabama struggled and the way that Georgia took a shellacking during the SEC championship game. But at the end of the day, Dan was right. So Dan, if you're able to give yourself like applause on your little soundboard there, we need to add that in there because you definitely need a pat on the back. When I look at the bowl games, and I watched darn near every single one, including the ones that Dan didn't approve of, apparently didn't find entertaining enough to grace his big screen in his mansion over in Malibu. One of the things that I looked at here is that. Yeah, I wish you had a mansion in Malibu too, because maybe I would stop doing it in my underground studio and do my recordings in a nicer area. Plus, where's my actual microphone here? I'm still waiting here, guys, instead of using a dirty vacuum tube.
Yeah, I got to get a hold of customer service.
Yeah. But ultimately, when I see these bowl games, I look at the strength of the conference and what conference is doing good, who's the ultimate winner, and who are the losers. And for next season and the seasons to come, the first thing that really struck me was the fact that the Pac-12 is just terrible in bowl season. All of us being in Oregon, none of the Pac-12 teams won their bowls. And sure, Utah gave one hell of a fight to Ohio State. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I guess a part of me is, if you are the outright Pac-12 champion, shouldn't you beat the team that didn't even win its division? That's just kind of the way I look at it. So for me, it should have been a gimme win, regardless of how great Ohio State is. Now, obviously, the world doesn't work like that. So, of course, Ohio State won. Oregon got shellacked. Oregon State got shellacked by a team that's not a Power 5. Washington State, Central Michigan University, I think they're called the Chippewas, mm-hmm. which is a tribal name, I think. I don't know. Out in Michigan. But why are you losing to these guys? You absolutely shouldn't. So 0-4 is the Pac-12 in the bowls. The Big 12 and the Big 10 are huge winners, where basically the Big 10 only lost 3 of its bowl games, one being to one of the best teams in the country in Georgia, with Michigan losing. Rutgers, who wasn't even slotted to go play in a bowl game, they lost. So you only have those 3 losses. And then everybody else is kind of a proven winner in the Big 10. And then, of course, the Big 12 with Baylor and Oklahoma State winning their New Year's Six bowl games, which was awesome to watch. I especially loved watching Oklahoma State kind of come back from a 21-8 deficit, I believe.
Mhm.
And then, of course, if we're going to talk about the cut above the rest, I believe there's 16 teams in the SEC, and 13 of those teams went to a bowl. That's insane, guys. So I'll get off my high horse for a second, but I would also like to bring up the Ole Miss Baylor game, if allowed to.
Yeah, I got a quick question for you. I just want to know your thoughts because this had me thinking as I was watching the Michigan game is would Ohio State have given them a better game?
No.
No?
I think Baylor would have given them a better game.
Yeah. Yeah. They look good.
Honestly, I think Oklahoma State would have gave them a better game. Hell, you know what? I would think Oklahoma would have gave them a better game.
Yeah.
You can't play power football, which is what Michigan is, with a power football team. Georgia and let's just stick with Georgia. Georgia is kind of like a Michigan team, a great running game, a great front seven, but they're just a lot better at it. They're older, they're more experienced, their athletes are a lot better. So I don't know, maybe Ohio State, because they're not necessarily a power team per se, because they're really good at passing the ball, clearly, if you watch the Rose Bowl. Yeah, I guess they would, but I just, with a team like Georgia, I wouldn't see too many teams really competing with them, nonetheless winning the game.
So, Palmer, I got a question going back to the Pac-12. Where does that stem from as far as how weak it has gotten? And what is the solution? Do you see that changing anytime soon with Lincoln Riley now being in California, or no?
So you kind of already answered your question. It is predicated on USC being good, and kind of raising that competition or elevating that competition to where it needs to be. Ultimately, I think the issue with the Pac-12 is we just haven't really. We're known as the Conference of Champions. I don't know if you guys know that. That's the slogan of the Pac-12. But the championships that they're winning are like Olympic sports, diving, gymnastics. I know Cal has a really good rugby team, but let's be frank, no one watches these teams in America. No one really cares. I don't care what team does really good at synchronized diving. Hell, I don't even watch it. Compared to, say, like the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, SEC, ACC, Big 12, and the Big 10, these guys prioritize their number one revenue sport in America, which is football. So they got a new commissioner, and I hope this guy is really big in restructuring their. And I'm trying to condense this here because I don't want to kind of overload you and your viewers. But the Pac-12 network is stupid, and it doesn't produce a lot of revenue versus, say, like the SEC network or even the Longhorn network, where they typically, or the ACC network, Big Ten network, because they partner with ESPN or CBS or Fox. But the Pac-12 network was its own entity, and there wasn't enough exposure per se to produce revenue dollars to get those programs the money that they needed. So at this point, since that's all messed up, we need USC to be good again. We need a national brand to be in the top 5 every single year. And with that raised level of competition, teams like Oregon can, try to be that North competition. And then the winner of that could maybe get into the playoffs or at least get into a New Year's Six bowl. Utah, as much as I love everything that you've done, Winningham, you're a wonderful coach, and I think you've done a great job with the Utes. You're still the younger brother of the Pac-12. You shouldn't have gone to that game. Oregon should have beaten you, but congrats for beating Oregon and rightfully winning the Pac-12. But you're not the representation. You're not our, I don't know, our Hercules or our one soldier to win us some glory here, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't understand that. And coming from this aspect is that USC, you're in Southern California. Okay, let's put this in perspective. You got the ocean. It's, from what I've heard, it's absolutely beautiful down there. There's a lot happening down there. My question is, why has it been so terrible? I mean, I could get like trying to get some of these, Southern California kids to come to like the Midwest, or really, quite frankly, even, the southern states, the southern half of the states. But I just don't get it. I don't get how it's been that bad. Weather wise, Oregon isn't terrible. You got the winter that's rainy and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe kids today don't care about any of that stuff. And they're just like, man, I'll just go down south. We'll go to Alabama or Georgia. And it's a proven system. They've proven that they are legit and they are for real and going to be for a while. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't fully get it.
Well, no, you're right. I mean, typically I don't get it too, but that's because we're kind of an older generation who
Right.
maybe have better attention spans than younger counterparts. But when was the last time USC was really relevant? That was 2003, 4, and 5. A lot of those kids were in diapers or learning how to walk, or might not even been born yet. So these kids are just growing up with the SEC dominance in Alabama and Georgia, Auburn, Florida, so on and so forth. And ultimately, kids care about one thing: the brand, which is a lot better down in those southern states that, quite frankly, don't match up to Southern California's climate. Not to say this in a sexist way, but there's beautiful women down there in California compared to, say, Alabama, assuming that they got their braces. But ultimately, they're going to these places because that's what they grew up knowing winning. And same with Oregon. Oregon was, I'm not going to call them dominant. They're definitely not a blue blood team. They definitely performed a lot better than USC. So that's what's going on, is they can't keep these California kids home, and they're going to all these random places. And the whole I'm going to represent my state school doesn't exist anymore. Kids are very selfish, and rightfully so. And they want to go to a program that gives them the best chance to get to the NFL and play in the bowl game. So they end up on the Kreider household up in his mansion over there in Malibu. Because if you, God forbid, if you go to the Bahamas Bowl, Dan's not going to watch you. Those TV ratings are not coming from his household, guys. So
no,
stay away from USC, who's not even getting into those bowl games.
I'll be more than happy to go watch the game at the stadiums. I'm game to go to the Bahamas. Who wouldn't be? But yeah, I mean, it's just, but yeah, and you made a lot of sense there, and you are 100% correct. The in-state loyalty, I think, has went by the wayside quite a few years ago. I think it kind of started fading out toward the end, and about my generation. You still had some loyal kids that wanted to stay, and it depends on the family situation, I think, too. Some kids want to be, close to their family, and that's all understandable and respectable. But yeah, I've just never understood that. I thought, my God, if I was recruiting at USC, I would like to think that I would have no problem getting kids to come to Southern California for free.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we add that in. You're never going to get to California for free. Usually it's however much it costs to live in your state, times that by about 12, and you're probably right about what it costs to live in California.
And there are two types of recruiting in college football. You have your we'll get to Alabama in a second. You have your USC right now, which is they're recruiting. They're trying to make their sales pitch, and they're trying to convince these kids to come to my school, right? So there's recruiting, and then there's inviting. That's what Alabama does. That's what Georgia does. That's what Ohio State does. Hey, our roster's pretty full, but if you want, you can. And of course, that's maybe a gross exaggeration, but I guarantee you they don't have to recruit near as hard as USC does after right now with the brand name and recognition they got.
Well,
Yeah.
I think too, having a place like California with so much going on, it could be a gift or a curse when it comes to recruiting, especially in state, because those kids, there's just so many teams there, from professional to college, not to mention just activities and things to do that, I mean, compared to a place like Bama, Georgia, where kids that grow up in those areas, I mean, it's all football, but you go back to Cali, especially Southern Cal. I mean, shoot, we haven't even mentioned the Bay. You got Cal, Berkeley. You got just so much going on that whole in-state aspect, I feel like, is almost kind of watered down for those kids because they've just grown up with so much around them.
So yes and no. And typically I wanted this episode to me be hating on Dan for as much as he was disrespecting those other bowl games. And I wanted to kind of leave you alone here, Ryan. But the thing is California is the South, so to speak, when it comes to those football camps to the West Coast. That's why you're seeing these guys like Bryce Young, who is a California kid going to Alabama, winning the Heisman in their first year, because they do start football at a younger age. Now, Oregon and Washington, Idaho, Montana, so on and so forth, in that little Pac-12 region for quote unquote recruiting, they don't really do football camps like California does. They don't do Pop Warner football as early as those California kids do. And so that's why it's so important that we keep those California kids in the Pac-12 so we can be competitive. It's not necessarily there's too much to do kind of thing, because don't get me wrong, yeah, that is true. But let me be very clear. I lived in Kansas when I first played college football, small college, so I'm not bragging anything, okay? But when I played small college football in Kansas, there is just as much distraction for kids in those small states just as in California, because if it's not going to the beach and hanging out with your bros, it's playing Madden, it's playing NCAA. Sometimes it's drinking and driving, not just drinking and then driving. No, like, you know, I've seen it where people are drinking while they're in their cars in Kansas because the roads are flat, and I don't condone that behavior. I've never done it, so kids, don't do that. Like, share, and subscribe. But so it's definitely not, in my opinion, the fact that there's so much going on in Southern California. Because those athletes in Southern California, if you look to where they're going, they're clearly good enough to play at Clemson and Alabama, Georgia, so on and so forth. The issue is just keeping those kids here.
No, that 100% makes sense. It almost seems like, and I could be wrong on this, but California itself is more attractive to right now. Seems more attractive to out of state kids that can be wowed by the California scene, as opposed to kids who have maybe just grown up there and they're just not. They want to play for a program that, I don't know, that, like you said earlier, like they weren't watching football when Pete Carroll was at USC and whatnot. And that's what I'm really curious to see, because going back to the earlier question of what's it going to take to get the Pac-12 back, you know, if Lincoln Riley can get USC back on top, it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up every other school in the Pac-12, because this year, looking at all those teams that lost, I mean, who did Oregon State lose to?
University. Well, technically it's Utah State University. Go Aggies.
Yeah, and that's not picking on OSU. I'm just saying, like, it just seems super, super weak, man. And I think you're right. I think it's all predicated off of USC, because Utah isn't the face of the Pac-12. They're not, you know, and if they are, then the Pac-12 is in trouble.
Well, and it's actually fair to pick on Oregon State for losing to a Group of 5 school, and it's very fair from Dan's position, who's probably never even seen that bowl game and wouldn't even bother to watch it, as he's watching, I don't know, like Gilmore Girls or whatever.
Gilmore Girls, what the heck? No.
Well, hell, man, if you're not watching college football, then I don't know what you're watching. Like I said, I'll turn off, you know, whatever, it's Game of Thrones, The Witcher, that Yellowstone show, which is really good, that I like.
Yellowstone, I'll watch that.
But I will
college basketball. In all fairness, there was some really good college basketball games that were way more intriguing than a lot of those bowl games. That's just coming from my perspective.
That I'm sorry, Dan, you're right, because you guys are more of a basketball and baseball ilk, and I'm more of the college football fanatic. So I'll give you credit there. And I loved watching the Jimmy Kimmel bowl this year, and I believe that's what it was Oregon State, Utah State. I could be wrong on that one. I just know that Jimmy Kimmel sponsored a bowl.
It was. I seen it. All right. Well, what about going kind of even tag teaming off of that? My other thing with that is that, you know, LA and California is, as far as marketing, you cannot get a more dominant area as well. So I don't know. That's just kind of, I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it rest at that. But I just have been just kind of confused on, like, I think USC needs to hire me. I'll recruit football kids, but you don't have to be much of a salesman to get kids to go to California or stay in California. You know, if you sell it right, you know, I don't know if there was just no relationship built there or what, but it's like, my goodness, you got some media, you know, dominance in that area. And it's like, I don't know. I don't get it.
I mean, Snoop Dogg isn't that old, where I know a lot of these young generations know who Snoop Dogg is. And there's so many celebrities going to, and who are football fans, like
Yeah.
Will Ferrell, Snoop Dogg, and of course you'll get those fringe celebrities that'll go there, like the Laker games kind of thing. But if I'm a kid and I see Snoop Dogg on the sideline, hell yeah, I'd go over there. But Clay Helton just wasn't a good coach. The athletic department over at USC is very bad. I mean, it's like having a Ferrari in your garage, but driving your old 85 Chevy instead. And that's how they treat it, because you have, like you said, you have so many awesome things. You shouldn't have to try hard to get a good coach, and you shouldn't try so hard to get recruiting. But these people who don't watch the Jimmy Kimmel Bowl or the Bahamas Bowl like you, Dan, they feel like, well, I'm too good to go out and get this coach. And I think that's what they did. And they finally, I think the boosters, the USC faithful finally said, like, no, get us a good quality recruiter and a good quality coach. And they finally put their foot down, and the athletic director finally had to pull the trigger. And I do think Lincoln Riley is a good hire and a good fit. I think his offense is going to do really well for USC. I'd say in about 2 years, USC will be up to form.
Yeah, I would agree. By the way, the championship game, which is basically the SEC championship game, is going to be on January 10th at 5 p.m. at Lucas Oil Stadium. So I will be watching that one, of course.
Of course.
I don't know. Who do you guys got? Who do you guys think? Do you think that this is going to be you think Alabama's going to, I don't know, Alabama or Georgia? Who you guys got?
Guess I'll go first. It's crazy because here we are, Alabama in the championship game, and we could all sit here and say this wasn't Alabama's best year, which is
which is crazy.
It's
crazy.
Funny, yeah.
It's crazy to think that, but Georgia looked really good against Michigan. They lost to Alabama already. I don't know, man. I what I'm hoping for is a damn good football game. But I'm not going to bet against Nick Saban. I got Bama.
Yeah. And I kind of go off of the same strategy that Ryan has. Outside of the Longhorns, I don't necessarily root for teams. I root for coaches that I like. So I wanted Oklahoma State to win because I knew who Mike Gundy was, and I knew he was a great coach. I actually wanted Ole Miss to win because I think Lane Kiffin is a great coach, and I wanted the Lane train to make a stop in Eugene, Oregon, but of course they wouldn't do that. But you look at Nick Saban's totality of his whole career, and then you see his record against assistant coaches. He only lost once, and that was this year to Texas A&M. I think Kirby Smart could definitely beat him again. But I think Nick Saban versus defensive coaches, and that's what Kirby Smart was. He was a defensive back in his playing days, and he's a defensive coach. I think him and his offensive staff will possibly tear him apart, and that's what I'm hoping for. So I'm also going for Nick Saban to win his, I don't know, like 50th national championship.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Georgia wins this game, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because if Alabama gets a slow start, like they did against Cincinnati, I just feel like you're not gonna just come back on Georgia like that. That's just my opinion. I just feel like Georgia's gonna be tough, and you gotta also throw in there the revenge factor. Trust me, they'll give them the SEC championship as long as they can take the national championship. That's just my opinion. I think Georgia's going to come back strong. And I think if Alabama gets a slow start, it's a wrap. The Bulldogs will be heisting the trophy.
Can I say something about that? And I do agree with you. Like if we were talking about Alabama, I'd be like, yeah, Dan, Alabama's that true. Like they'll give them the SEC championship, but they're going to take the national championship. So I would agree with you on that logic, but do you guys understand how mentally deranged these kids are over at Alabama and Nick Saban? They consider themselves, and if you actually listen to the press conferences and the pregame conferences that the players and Nick Saban had before their game against Cincinnati, they considered themselves underdogs. And they said it often, we're underdogs, we're being disrespected. For God's sakes, you're probably the best storied program in our lifetime, and you're considering yourselves underdogs to Cincinnati. the team who just finally broke, the glass ceiling as a group of 5 to get to the championship playoffs. That's like a bodybuilder calling themselves fat at 8% body fat. But the thing is Alabama is so deranged, and give it to Coach Saban. He got these kids to buy in that they're disrespected and they're the underdog. And I tell you what, you do not want to mess with a team that has nothing to lose and thinks that they're an underdog. So I would agree with you for the most part, Dan. But, Georgia is a bunch of sane thinking kids. And Alabama's just a bunch of freaking psychos who thinks they're being disrespected and always an underdog. So that's why I would also kind of lean towards that Alabama. These kids ain't right outside of, dating their cousins and all that other stuff that Alabama's known for. No offense, Alabama.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, we'll move on to the NFL. And I got a quick interview, fellas, as we are going to talk about a very interesting topic. Is going to be the first thing I want to hit on. I got a little clip I want you guys to listen to.
Obviously a difficult situation. And, I think we all want, him to, just think everybody should find, hopefully do what they can to help him in ways that, he really needs it. And, we all love him. We care about him deeply. We want to see him be at his best, and, unfortunately won't be with our team, but, we have a lot of friendships that will last. And again, I think the most important thing about football are the relationships with your friends and your teammates, and they go beyond the field. And, I think everyone should be very compassionate and empathetic toward, some very difficult things that are happening.
All right. So that is Tom Brady on Antonio Brown. Just to give their listeners just a quick briefing, is that I believe it was just right around halftime or just after halftime. I think it was after halftime. Antonio Brown, I don't know what happened, takes his pads, his helmet, throws them, runs toward the locker room, takes his shirt, his gloves, everything, throws it in the crowd and waves, and basically let everybody know that he was done. And then that was the post-game interview after Bruce Arians said that he's no longer a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So yeah, very, very interesting. I will give my opinion. I want to hear what you guys have to say on that, and I will give you my opinion of it as well, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, it was a trip. I'm just reading this article on ESPN, and it says how the security thought he was they call it a jumper, like the people that come in from the crowd and just start running around. It says, we thought he was a jumper, one security officer said, adding that as Brown went through the tunnel, he asked state troopers for a ride to the airport. They told him no. He was shirtless and didn't have his wallet, the security officer said, adding that Brown got changed in the locker room and was able to get alternate transportation to the airport. It was very Antonio Brown style-ish of a way to go out. I don't know, because it would be easy to sit here and kind of bash the man because obviously he made a fool of himself, which he has for a while in the NFL. And to be on a winning team that's probably has a great shot at going and winning a Super Bowl. I mean, you're playing for arguably, if it's even arguably, the best quarterback to ever play the game. So at what point is it actually there's real issues probably going on in this man's head, and I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about it. There's a part of me that kind of wants to laugh at him and like make fun of him. But then there's another part of me that's like, dude, this dude kind of needs some help.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely stuff going on there, and you just kind of hope the best for him.
Yeah, this isn't surprising, right? I mean, like you said, Ryan, this is Antonio style-ish. He's had a ton of controversy, even outside of this year with faking his vaccination passport kind of thing. When it was with the Raiders, he wasn't allowed a certain helmet. So basically he just took some spray paint, painted his helmet so he can keep that one particular helmet, going into a cryo freeze chamber and getting not freezer burn. What's the one that's really bad?
Where his
frostbite.
feet got all jacked up.
Yeah. And so, yeah, you're right, Ryan. We can take the route of the low hanging fruit and kind of make fun of this dude, but this guy's just always had controversy around him, and this might be a mental health issue. And I hate talking about mental health on this show because I feel like it gets overplayed. But what happens is if everybody has mental health issues, then sometimes we kind of actually overgloss the real mental health issues out there. And I think Antonio Brown, not everything's right. He definitely needs some help. And and I don't remember who said this, but money doesn't make you who you are; it shows you who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have this millionaire who's, quite frankly, eccentric, to say the least. And I was hoping that Tom Brady would kind of keep him at bay. That was a little wordplay on Tampa Bay, but anyways, even guys like Tom Brady can't keep that guy in check. So I'll keep my prayers for Antonio Brown, and hopefully he doesn't harm himself or anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we all have touched on it. If the guy needs, has some type of mental health issue, then yeah, I wish him all the best. I hope he gets help. My issue with the way that went down is you're going to battle with your teammates. And not only are you going to battle with your teammates, you are an example for these young kids that are coming up through the ranks that absolutely, admire you and adore everything that you're able to do. And, I don't know. If it's a mental health thing, I don't want to, I don't want to tear the guy down because we're all human beings at the end of the day. But also it's just that I couldn't, you just don't go to war with your teammates like that. And like we've all said, this is a team that has a really good chance of winning the Super Bowl. I mean, he had 6 or 8 catches last week. I think it was last week. And so, I mean, it's not like he's not getting the ball. So I'm not sure if what was going on, but I just have a feeling it's going to be one of those things he's going to look back on and really regret later in life.
It's hard to read when you're not inside that locker room as far as get a feel for the vibe, but it seems like a lot of his teammates are genuinely like sad and concerned for him.
Yeah.
Like from what I'm reading, they're not like bashing him like, good, get that cancerous guy off our team. They're more so like super kind of bummed and concerned. And I highly doubt they're shocked. I mean, they're around him often. They probably knew it's eventually something was going to happen, but I think that's very telling. When his teammates publicly are like concerned about him, and just genuinely want the best for him. So yeah, I don't know. That was interesting, but to kind of bring light to the situation, when he was leaving that field, it looked like he just left a Urban Meyer party, man. He had the shirt up, he was swinging it, hopping around. I was like, what is going on? And like the game was still going on, and he was like in the end zone.
Dude, we need to send him I'm with Urban shirt.
Yeah. Man, this dude just does not care. That's crazy.
And full disclosure to the audience here, I literally found out about this whole Antonio Brown situation when I got on the Zoom call, because I was actually watching the Jacksonville Jaguars getting shellacked and absolutely loving it, getting shellacked by Mac Jones and Bill Belichick. And I hope you guys lose every single game until I die. For what you did to Urban Meyer. You guys are a scrub organization, and you guys don't really even deserve a pro team. Why don't you guys go to arena football, you scrubs?
Oh, shoot. All right. So moving on, it looks like Cincinnati beat the Kansas City Chiefs. That was very interesting. Granted, it was only by 3 points, but that was kind of a shocking win for. I mean, Cincinnati is no slouch by any means. It just Kansas City started really playing well. It kind of threw me off. So yeah, and Tennessee beat Miami. The Raiders beat Indianapolis Colts. And let's see. Yeah, and then the Patriots beat the Jaguars by 40.
Good.
Wow.
I would say that's a little bit of a deficit there. But the LA Rams was another one. They beat the Ravens by 1. I feel like that was a really big win for them. Chargers beat the Broncos. Niners beat the Texans. And then the dagger, I know Ryan don't want to talk about this one, is the Arizona Cardinals beat the Dallas Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was a shocker to me. But yeah, that was actually, there was a guy who was putting in for his weekly pool at work. And I looked down and I seen he had picked Arizona. I said, "Are you seriously going to pick Arizona?" He's like, "I'm a fan, man. I got to pick him every week, no matter what." I was like, "Ah, that's respectable." And here they end up winning by 3.
Well, hey, going back to Cincinnati real quick. So they finished up 10-6 and they clinched the AFC North. It's the first time in the playoffs since 2015. And they snapped Kansas City's 8-game win streak. But beyond that, Joe Burrow threw for 30 for 39, 446 yards, and 4 touchdowns, and he set the team record for passing yards and touchdowns in a season, breaking Andy Dalton's records. So I thought that was pretty impressive. I mean, you got a kid he's in his 3rd year in the league.
Second
year in the league.
If you actually kind of consider how much he actually played in the first season, I mean, he just completed his first full season, so to speak. So he didn't even really get a full season to develop last year.
Right. And it has completely changed the culture of a team, as it's not like he got drafted by this super dominant team. But yeah, he's led them to the AFC North. Touching on the Cowboys-Cardinals game, that's the frustrating part about the Cowboys is they do this thing where they turn it on like 8 minutes left in a game. And they have enough firepower to do that here and there. But Kyler Murray's tough. And Arizona did not run the ball very well all game long that game. And that last drive, Dallas just needed to get a stop to get the ball back. And Kyler Murray single-handedly drove that ball down the field with his legs. And that's what makes Arizona so tough to me is you take away their run game, you control their passing game. Now you still got to worry about Kyler. And he really showed on that last drive how good he is and how good that football team can be, especially come playoff time. I think he's 8-0 at that stadium going back to when he was in high school.
Jeez.
In Dallas. Yeah, I don't think I feel like everyone loves playing there. It does not seem like a home field advantage to me. I feel like players get really excited to go there. But yeah, shout out to Arizona, man. They're tough. Cowboys, they got to put a full game together. They got the pieces, but they clinched their division as well. So you got Buffalo, Cincinnati, Tennessee, Kansas City, and the AFC who all clinched their divisions. And then over in the NFC, you got the Cowboys, Packers, Tampa Bay, and the Rams who are on a 5-game win streak.
Yeah, the Rams look good. Look better than what they had, but it looks like your clinchers are going to be just that is Arizona, Dallas, Tampa Bay, Los Angeles, Green Bay, the Los Angeles Rams. I guess I should clarify that considering they got like 28 teams in LA, New England, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Tennessee actually has the number 1 spot in the AFC. I don't know what the word is on if they're going to be able to get Henry back before these playoffs. I got word before. Have either one of you guys heard anything else about that? Because I don't know. I haven't looked at it, but I remember somebody saying he there's a chance he may be back before the playoffs.
So I heard he's going to be back before the playoffs, but I actually want to touch on something. Out of all those teams that you named,
right,
there's only 3 deviations from what I'm about to say. All those teams have a transcending, out of this world quarterback. The only exception to this rule is Mac Jones because it's his first year in New England. Then you're going to have, no offense to Vargas here, the Cowboys and Dak Prescott. He's a great quarterback, but he doesn't scream super elite, just breaking all these records. And then you have Ryan Tannehill and the Titans that basically the Tennessee Henrys is what I would refer to them as, because that's where that offense starts and stops.
Yeah.
But all these other teams, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Josh Allen,
Aaron Rodgers,
Kyler Murray, these are quarterbacks that are just so dominant. And it really shows that in the NFL, you don't really need a good defense. You just need a transcending talent at quarterback. And I'm going to use the Arizona Cowboy game. The Cowboys have a stacked defense with that Micah Parsons, as probably should be defensive rookie of the year and just defensive player of the year. But like what Vargas said, Kyler can pass. He's got a lot of weapons, but then when push comes to shove, that kid can run too. And he is fast.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just adds a whole nother element where it doesn't matter how good your defense is anymore. It's really how great your quarterback. And the best quarterback and the healthiest team is ultimately going to win the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah. And I mean, in Tampa Bay, even with all that drama, Tom Brady made a last end of the game drive to win that game. So Gronk actually had a really good game. It was funny after the interview at the end of the game, they were interviewing him. They were like, so what are your thoughts with Antonio Brown? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, I was on the field banging around with 6'3", 6'4", 250-pound guys on the field. He goes, I was doing everything I can to survive. I wasn't worried about what Antonio Brown was doing. And I just thought that was such a cool answer, but yet so true. I mean, these guys had no idea. The guys that were on the field, I mean, they're trying to do their job, so, but that was an impressive win. Honestly, guys, I don't know. I have a hard time saying Tennessee's going to make it to the Super Bowl. I feel like it's going to be a New England, Kansas City battle. Although looking at it, that might be the first game. Might be New England could play Kansas City, and then Buffalo could play Cincinnati or something along those lines, which would be interesting. Because then that would, but I think whoever would win that game would go to the Super Bowl in the AFC. That's just my opinion. Buffalo has a chance, but will they do it? I mean, we'll see. But I just feel like, same situation in the NFC. It's Tampa Bay, Green Bay. LA showed some stuff today. But I feel like LA is along the same line as like the Cowboys. Like when they turn it on, it's on, and you're going to have a hell of a time beating them. If they're inconsistent and that week they're off, they're toast. They might compete and hang, but they're going to find a way to throw it away, and just give the game away. And it seems like that's the same thing. Arizona is a problem, or can be. I feel like they're in the same boat as them guys, though. I don't think when it comes to playoff time, Kyler Murray isn't going to win that game for him with his legs. I don't know, maybe so, but I just would have a hard time believing that myself.
I'm going to make the push that it's not going to be the best team that gets to the Super Bowl from the AFC side. It's going to be the team that's now clicking on all cylinders, and I do think that's Cincinnati. And I think Cincinnati could represent, with the way that Joe Burrow and Javar, I can't pronounce his first name, but last name's Chase, the rookie receiver out of LSU. I think they are starting to click at all cylinders and beating Kansas City and breaking that 8-win streak. And I don't know. I see them basically getting to the Super Bowl. They're just a hot team, and they're just going to take that momentum all the way there. And I don't think Tampa Bay, or Tampa Bay as I like to refer, I don't think they're going to get to the Super Bowl this year. I think it's probably going to be Green Bay at this point. And just to kind of reiterate my point earlier about elite defenses doesn't always win you games, I want to kind of point back to Los Angeles. They have 3 mega stars on the defensive line, and Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and I think it's Jalen Ramsey is his name, the corner. Yeah. But ultimately, it's going to come down to Matthew Stafford, and he's a great quarterback. Make no mistake. He provided Detroit wins by himself.
Yeah.
But is he the elite quarterback? Yet to be seen. We'll find out.
I don't know, because he was in Detroit for so long. We never really got a chance to see. I mean, Detroit has been terrible for a lot of years. Yeah, I don't know. It's I think I've always liked Stafford, and I always thought that he is one heck of a quarterback. Yeah, I guess we'll find out. We'll see because he's definitely in a situation where this is his opportunity.
Well, here's the thing too, especially in the NFC, all roads in the playoffs lead to Lambeau Field.
They do, and it's cold.
And it's cold.
Very cold.
And you know, Green Bay, they're on right now. If they beat Minnesota, which they're up 13-0, they'll finish with the most wins in the NFC. It looks like they're playing for that home field advantage. So, I mean, when I think of the Cowboys, when I think of the Rams, I've really taken into consideration going to Lambeau Field and doing it. You know, that climate's just different, and the Packers are built for that. Now, can Tampa Bay do it? We know Tom Brady can do it.
Right.
We know Tom Brady can do it, but can his team do it? You know, been posted up in Florida, used to that hot weather. I don't know. Time will tell. It'd be silly to count them out. But my personal opinion, I think that it's been the quietest, dominant season we've seen in a while by the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
They've just coasted, it seems, in 13-3 again, given that they win tonight. Rodgers is just unreal, completely unreal. And over in the AFC, man, it's crazy to me because, first of all, I don't trust Buffalo and I don't trust Cincinnati, not yet. Just my opinion. And Tennessee's on that list as well. Kansas City lost today, but earlier in the season, we were wondering if they were even going to make the playoffs.
Right.
They're tied for the most wins in the AFC now and have won 8 of their last 9 games. So they are hot. Granted, they lost today. They're a very hot team, and they have that experience as well, and that quarterback, as you were talking about earlier. So my prediction, I got Kansas City versus Green Bay in the Super Bowl this year, with Green Bay winning it.
Interesting. I will say this, the last time the playoffs were in Green Bay, I believe, well, maybe not the last time, but there has been a time where Michael Strahan and the Giants went into Green Bay and they did beat them in Green Bay. So it's doable.
Eli Manning, right? That was with Eli Manning.
It was. It was. And so, I mean, but they're coming from New York. So they were experiencing the same type of cold that Green Bay was. So they were used to it, adapted to it.
I believe that was against Brett Favre, not Aaron Rodgers.
It was correct.
Yeah.
Because I think Strahan broke the record for sacks, I believe, and with Brett, but he sacked Brett Favre that game, basically. Yeah. So yeah, it's doable, but I think we're all, like I say, I haven't changed. I'm never going to count Tom Brady out. I just won't. I refuse. I just think he's too good. He's too mentally tough. And he's got Gronk is healthy now. Granted, I feel like if his whole team's healthy, they could be a problem for Green Bay. You know, but Aaron Rodgers is also a major problem. Like we said, I mean, you're looking at two of the greatest quarterbacks we've seen in quite some time.
Right.
You know, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, as far as the AFC goes, honestly, I don't think it matters who goes to the Super Bowl from the AFC. I think they're getting beat. That's just my opinion. Kansas City, you know, and like you said, you know, Cincinnati beat them today. Cincinnati could take this and run with it and get on a hot streak and really, but Cincinnati's been good all year. I mean, they haven't been like a terrible team by any means.
Yeah.
They've stayed pretty consistent for most of the year. You know, they got 6 losses, but you know, the Chiefs got 5 losses. So, and like you said, they started out terrible. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, Cincinnati will have to go to play at Kansas City if they met again. So that would be a little different at Kansas City in the playoffs. But looking at their road record, I mean, Cincinnati is 5-2 on the road this year. So
Yeah,
they're no joke. Like they're a good
they can do it
team for sure. They definitely could do it.
Yeah, you're not going to go into Arrowhead Stadium and just steamroll the Chiefs. That's just not going to happen.
Well, and Burrow was kind of battling an injury. They played it down like it wasn't super serious, but he didn't finish that game today.
In my opinion, at this point in the season, everybody's battling injury. whether it's noted or not. And yeah, you're right. He didn't finish the game, but it's crunch time. Everybody's hurting. Everybody's injured. Everybody's dealing with the weather. And so that goes back to who has the most elite quarterback, who is basically clicking on all cylinders and who can stay the healthiest. So if they already clinched the North and, they get a bye or whatever, I don't see that becoming an issue going into Arrowhead Stadium personally. I would feel remiss as the quote unquote football analyst not to recognize, and this is old news because this happened last week, but the game of football had lost a great man. And I know this has already been recycled through all the medias and all that other stuff, but John Madden died at 85. And to have a man like that impact the game for generations, he will sorely be missed. I mean, he's the highest winning percentage coach out there. I think he's won 70% of his games. So he changed the game that way, then going in the broadcast booth and brought kids in my generation into football. And then of course with the Madden games, which honestly, I don't know when that namesake's ever going to be forgotten or they're going to change the name, but that man has brought so many young men into football. And so I guess I just wanted to say my piece about that, because personally, John Madden has meant a lot to me in my household. He was in a weird way, and I don't want to sound too sentimental, but he was like family, because you think about the holidays and those events that everybody gathers around. It was Thanksgiving, which he was a part of during those games, and then the Super Bowl. And, you never really recognize what you lost until they're gone. But, I don't know. I'm just really sad about the situation. My heart goes out for the Madden family and everybody else. But yeah, so anyways, before you let me go, I just wanted to kind of just touch base on the greatness of John Madden. And I also, is Vargas on this?
No, I'm glad you caught me on that, because yes, John Madden, he was just one of the best personalities on television, announcing games, and just his breakdown. I think he was really one of the first guys to really start breaking down and bring in the chalkboard into it. And seriously, basketball, baseball didn't matter. Well, baseball, you wouldn't have it, but, he was really breaking stuff down, and he really changed the game as far as that goes. And you're right. And honestly, I think football owes John Madden a lot, a lot to that, because he's really built that sport, and kept it alive and going. And just it seemed like he was a really good and fun guy. Obviously I didn't know him, but I would have loved to meet him. But, now, his legacy will definitely live on. I would be very, very, very disappointed if, I believe it's EA Sports has the Madden football game. I would be very disappointed if they ever took that name off of that game, because I feel like, he's more than earned it, nevertheless. But yeah, rest in peace, John Madden.
Well, and I just want to just kind of touch base on one more thing when it comes to Coach Madden. When I watch football nowadays, in particular the NFL, I mute the games, because I have no interest in the commentary that's going on. They're not saying anything that's, to me, entertaining. They're not saying anything that I already don't know about the sport. But, Madden retired in 2009, so I got to witness him as a young man. And, one of my best memories, it's like this. When there's someone who talks and their story is important, or their message is important, you listen. And so there was never a time in the Palmer household that we muted a game, because we were so glued to every word that John Madden said. And, that's a lost art nowadays. He didn't get too political. He made the game fun. And he drew a whole crowd. He wasn't just talking to football heads like me, but he was talking to women who back then didn't watch the sport as much, and to kids who didn't have the attention span. And that's the greatness in my mind of John Madden. He didn't take himself too seriously, but he was very educated in the sport. and he was just really fun to watch. And like I said, it's the greatest memories I have as a kid. Was watching football with my family, and not necessarily understanding why they were laughing, because he was funny. You got everybody involved. But then as I got older, then I got to enjoy the jokes too. And the reason I get emotional about it is, and I already said this to you, Dan, is you don't know how good you have it until they're gone. And even though he retired, it was just like, okay, I guess I'm just going to mute the television now. But there will not be another John Madden out there, in my opinion. There won't be someone who is so beloved by the sport and by the fans. And there is a service of gratitude that I have to John for everything he's done for the sport. So, yeah, I don't like getting emotional, but, we lost a great, and you'll be missed. So sorry about that, guys.
No, well said.
Don't
And
be sorry, man.
definitely agree.
I think you put that so well, and it just shows like your love and your passion for not only, but I mean, we were spoiled. The game was spoiled. Everybody was spoiled. And you said it so well when you said he made it so fun. Like that is the lost art of it right there. It's just, it is a fun game, and like, I don't know who said it earlier. Someone said, I don't even know if it was on the show. Shoot, I might have heard it just earlier today. I don't know, but the best part of football is the relationships, and like, even though we didn't know that man, like you feel like you knew the man.
Mhm.
That's just how personable he was, and we lost a good one for sure.
Yes, for sure. John Madden will be missed, and we wish all our prayers and everything are with him and his family. And with that, we will transition to our basketball segment, but we want to definitely let Palmer know how much we appreciate him and always love his expertise, and looking forward to what we get to talk about next week.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to leave this on a more positive note. Jennifer Lawrence has since stopped talking to me, so I'm glad that the restraining order was received. And Jacksonville, I hope you lose every game and you lose the franchise. That being said, guys, thanks for having me on the show.
Well, hey, Palmer, before you sign off real quick, I just want to say something. You have made our show so much better, honestly. And like you've added so much value to the show, and you're super smart, your expertise in sports, but just beyond that, just having you around has been super uplifting. So I hope you know how much we appreciate you. I know our listeners appreciate you. They're probably getting sick of just hearing me and Dan all the time. And you brought a whole new element to it, dude. So thank you for rocking this with us.
Well, hell, man, I'm already emotional enough. So I don't think the listeners want to hear me cry twice, but I do appreciate it. And it goes the same with you guys, right? I wouldn't be able to do what I do without having good soundboards back and forth with you guys. And I really do appreciate the show, and starting the new year off right with, I guess, gratitude, guys. So I'm grateful for the show. And Ryan, I guess I'd have to ask one more thing. This is for you, Ryan, because I think Dan already knows the answer. With what you're saying, are you implying that I might move the needle?
Oh God, here we go.
I'm definitely implying that you move the needle.
Oh, thanks. All right. Now I'll actually sign off. Ryan, thanks for the great words. Dan, thank you for your gratitude too. You might not said it, but I know you feel the same way.
Yes, absolutely. You have a good evening, my friend. Nice. Yeah, we're starting off the new year right.
Yes, we are.
All right, let's get into some NCAA basketball. Dude, Alabama beats Tennessee 73-68. Number one, Baylor beats Iowa State, but I will tell you this, that was not an easy win for Baylor. I think that probably was their biggest challenge as far as a game this year so far. Villanova beats Seton Hall, which was interesting. Seton Hall, I believe, was 17th. I did a typo. I got 67 on here. Yeah, that's not, well, I guess it is possible. But anyway, Villanova ranked 22nd, and they Nova beat them 73-67. Justin Moore knocks down a jumper to give Nova the lead, and they just, basically put the throttle down after that. Texas, I should have told Ryan that, or Palmer that before he left. Texas did beat West Virginia 74-59. And that's really I feel like the highlighted games. And I wanted to see, because Memphis has actually been turning it around as of late, I will say. Did you get to catch any of those games?
Dan, I've been up on the NBA. As far as college basketball, I have not. I'm afraid to look at my computer or anything because, like I said, my internet's down, so I don't want to get tossed off of Zoom again. But so Memphis is turning it around. Have they been on a little winning streak?
Yeah, they've just been playing a lot better. They still got a ways to go, but they've been playing a lot better. I just feel like I needed to mention that because, the last few weeks I've talked about my disappointment and disgust with them. But they have. Penny is really turning that program around, as their season around, I should say. He's been turning the program around, but he's turning the season around, and they're starting to look a lot better, starting to play cleaner basketball.
How's Imani Bates doing?
Imani Bates has been doing a little better. I feel like this is going to be the most important season of his life, because I do feel like he's learning. So even if they don't do very good, or he don't even do very good, but he learns a ton, I feel like that's going to benefit him more.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that. And like we said before, keep in mind, this kid was supposed to be a senior in high school. So, he's got some growing to do. He's got some things to learn. So it was refreshing, nevertheless, to see, Memphis starts turning around here. So it was good stuff.
So how for real is Alabama? We know it's so weird to say that with basketball, but
I know, because I don't remember ever having to say that in basketball. But they're legit, dude. They're legit, but right now they're just very inconsistent, which is why they dropped down to 19. I feel like this Tennessee win is really big for them, because they beat them, 73-68. Is it a great Tennessee team? I don't think so. I think Tennessee's can turn it on and really play at a high level. But man, the last game I watched Tennessee, I didn't see this game, by the way. I just caught into some highlights and stuff. So I feel like sometimes I like to say that, whether I've seen the whole game or not, because it makes a big difference when you see the whole game. You can understand the flow and what, transition when you just get to see the highlights. Because the last Tennessee game I actually watched, Tennessee looked like trash to me. They didn't look very good. I feel like this year in college basketball, the theme of teams that are kind of on the fence is turnovers. It's, and let's keep it very real here, as far as I'm okay if we just get beat because we just didn't shoot well, didn't necessarily have a great all around game. But some of these kids and these teams in college right now, with the turnovers and just not taking care of the ball, trying to do too much. It seems like the theme this year, besides your Baylors and your Dukes, but even Duke has had their moments, so it's still, to me, is going to be one of the best years. What I've noticed a lot lately, and I wanted to get your take on this, and this is kind of, taking my interest out a little bit, is I get excited about a game and then it's like, oh, this one's being postponed or this one's being canceled. And I mean, this is for real, because these are like, some of these are like real games. Like one of the games that was postponed or canceled was like USC and Arizona. That's a game I wanted to see. USC actually has been playing, we were talking about their football program, but their basketball program's actually, been pretty good the last few years. And they have recruited well. and kept some of the California kids. So Mobley was one. Mobley's a California kid, and his brother plays there. USC actually kept him there, so that was a big. Of course, now he plays for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Evan Mobley, not his brother. And but for me, I don't know. It's stuff like that's kind of, I feel like it's really hurting the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I mean it's beyond college basketball. It's happening in the NBA, in other sports as well. And it's at this point it's just frustrating, because I mean, shoot, when we were doing our podcast 2 years ago, it was hard to talk about games because every game would get postponed and canceled. And fast forward 2 years, I think everybody's just ready to accept the fact that we're going to have to deal with what's going on, and let's try to make life as normal as possible. And I'm not involved in it as far as like what causes the delays or the postpones and whatnot. I'm just sitting here as a fan of the game that it's just frustrating, man. It's already hard to get into it, like we were saying before the show. It's already hard. And I mean, at least for me, I know for you too, you've expressed that as well. Just professional sports and just sports in general, and just with everything extra that's with sports now.
Yeah.
That's the hard part. Like when we were talking about Madden earlier, it was just like when Madden was on, like you were watching football.
Right.
Like you were taking a break from all the other stuff. Like that was your escape, and that was your chance to just zone in on a game you loved. And there's just a lot that comes with sports now. And I feel like it's hurting the league. It's hurting the NCAA. And when does it end? That's my question. When does it end? Because as far as I'm concerned, they're taking all the precautions they're supposed to take as far as forcing vaccinations, doing all this other stuff to make it to where life can go on. And I don't know, man. It's just frustrating.
No, it is. And that's kind of when you go into like, I know I'm kind of reverting back to football here, but going back to the Antonio Brown thing, he had that big thing where he had this fake vaccine card. That's one example. Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets is another example. He's a key factor into the Brooklyn Nets and to the NBA, not just the Brooklyn Nets per se.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is make it make sense. Why can Kyrie Irving play a game in another state,
right,
but he's banned from playing in New York? Like, make it make sense. That's the hard part, is if it was really about quote unquote safety,
right,
you wouldn't be allowed to play anywhere. So it's just so extra, man. And it's just and then he gets back, Kyrie Irving's back, and then right away he gets sent into COVID protocols and he can't play for a couple of weeks. It's hard to keep up with.
Yeah, it's hard to deal with our government mafia. It's just the way it is. It's the USA family, not the Corleone family. In my opinion, I would prefer the Corleone family or the Gambino family, as according to what our government stands for. Anyway, I don't want to get too far into that, but yeah, it's been hard for me as well. And then kind of sliding off of that, do you know this player that plays for the Chicago Bulls named DeMar DeRozan?
Man,
he has been.
I've heard of him. I think the whole world's heard of him this week.
Oh man. And it was cool because I got to watch on social media. A good friend of mine, I went to school with, Adam Nussbaum. Him and his boy was at that one of those games, the Indiana game, when he hit the last second buzzer. I just thought that was cool. The fact that I see, a lot of guys I grew up with taking their kids to see NBA games at different, it's kind of a big deal. And then the first game the kid goes to, he sees something like that. It's like, oh, wow.
You don't forget that one.
You'll never forget that. And I just thought it was incredible. And his kid's a little baller. So good for him. And then he does it again against Washington. And that one was extremely impressive because he had Bradley Beal, and I can't remember who else was on the defensive move on that. And he couldn't have done that any more perfect than he did. The guys just impressed me.
How do you top that first one? Is my question. Like that first one, the runner off one leg,
Yeah.
you almost thought he forgot that the clock was ticking down. You're like, okay, is he gonna do some? Is he gonna do some?
Right.
Makes that shot. I believe that was the one at Indiana.
Yeah, it was. That was the one in Indiana.
And then a couple nights later, as you just said, in the corner, literally has two guys on him. Pump fakes one. Then he still has a guy in his face, double clutches, throws it up, knocks it down. But how about the Chicago Bulls in general?
Yes. Yes.
Number one in the East, 24-10, and just a fun team to watch, man. It's like they were just the way they put that roster together. I'm so impressed because it allows each of those players to be themselves.
Right.
If that makes sense. And
it does.
You got DeRozan on one side, Levine on the other side, and then you got Lonzo Ball pushing up the tempo. That's gonna be a fun team to watch for some time if they can keep them together.
Yeah, and honestly, this is probably the most fun the Bulls have been to watch since the Michael Jordan era. Yeah, I mean they've made some playoff runs and they were good, of quite a few, actually it was quite a few years ago. They kind of were putting together some squads, but this team has been my favorite team to watch since the Michael Jordan era by far.
I agree. And that says a lot because, I mean, you had the Derrick Rose era with that team, which was really good, but I agree. I think that they are that special. And I think that they can make a run this year, but I think going forward, they're here to stay for a while. Yeah. And I mean, we only mentioned a few of their weapons. They're stacked up. They're very, very stacked up. Remind me, who's the little guard that they got from the Lakers? Caruso.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a perfect fit for him too.
Oh, for sure. For sure. He's I think he's out right now, I believe. But yeah, no, you're right. And he's a shooter. Mm-hmm. He can knock it down. Yeah, they're a fun team, man. They're definitely a fun team to watch. It's and I agree. I think they're here to stay. I think you're only going to see them build upon what they have. I could see them winning the East. I really could. Levine has been begging for help for how many years, and then he gets DeRozan, he gets Ball, so they, that's a big thing for Chicago, man. Chicago, I don't know what it is with their ownership groups, but they need to reevaluate how they do things. The Bulls actually finally, like I said, are starting to make a move, and I haven't seen them do anything like this in quite some time.
It's interesting because you have guys like DeRozan and Levine who both will probably be all-stars if they haven't came out with the all-star list already. But you don't have like that selfishness where, DeRozan takes a shot and Levine's over there, pissed off because he's the guy and it should have been him.
Right.
I don't feel that with that team. And I feel like that's what makes that team so special and so good, is because a lot of times that type of mentality can hurt you because it can cause, turmoil in the locker room and whatnot. But you get the vibe that everybody is for everybody there.
Yeah.
And that goes back to kind of what I was saying when they put together that roster. DeRozan's always been tough. He's been tough. When he was in San Antonio, he was tough. He's always been a good player, but he's never been that high profile, you always hear about him type of player.
Right.
And so he was that perfect fit to come in there and to produce, but not necessarily bring all the extra baggage and be loud about it. He just comes there, does his job, and those two shots were crazy.
Yeah, I love it. And then you got the Golden State Warriors on the West Coast that are just the most consistent team I've seen in quite some time. And they're just, it's unreal. I mean, they beat Utah the other day, or I believe it was 1 or 2 days ago. So they're beating quality teams. Phoenix and Golden State are right neck and neck with each other, and Houston is coming right behind them. Then you got the Grizzlies coming behind them. So it's been interesting year with the NBA. And then, like you said, you got Chicago with Brooklyn right behind them. Then you got Milwaukee, Miami. I think it's only a matter of time before the 76ers are faded away. That's just them poor guys in Philly, man. I don't know. I don't know what in the world's happening over there, but anyway, yeah. But Golden State has been one of the most impressive teams I've seen play, period. And Steph is just, I'll tell you what, I know he gets a lot of credit and he gets a lot of attention, but I will tell you this. It is well deserved and then some, because that guy is unbelievable to me. He's the greatest shooter I've ever seen by far, and he's proven that this year with the record. But I think even beyond the record, the guy is just, his IQ is off the charts. I mean, because the dude can pass, he can shoot, he can drive, he can dribble. What can't the guy do? And I think Golden State's going to be a team that's they're going to be a tough team to beat and pull out of that number 1 spot in the Western Conference. Unless they really go in a bad slump, I can't really see them, falling too far from that. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And they played Phoenix on Christmas Day. And Golden State was actually, they didn't have all their guys. I mean, obviously they don't have Wiseman and Clay, but I think a couple other guys were out. And that game was in Phoenix, and Golden State went there, they won, but I just don't know if anybody, including Phoenix, is even going to give them much trouble come playoff time. I think they're that good, and they got pieces that they strategically put together, and I don't think Gary Payton Jr. gets enough credit.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely agree with that.
He does a lot for that team. And he does everything that Steph doesn't want to have to do.
Right.
And it's just for Steph to have that other guard that can come in while Steph's still in, but Steph doesn't have to always guard the other guard. Gary Payton will guard him, and he'll guard him all the way up court.
Right.
He'll make him work and tire him out. And he's just that dog that you want on your team. And not to mention they still have Draymond as well. And I think when Clay gets back, we might be seeing one of the best Warrior teams that we've seen. I mean, it's hard to say that because they did have Durant, but as far as like drama free,
that's what I was just gonna say. Good. I'm glad you brought that up.
Unselfish, just good, fun basketball, that wins games. Like, yeah, I think that we're gonna see something special with them. Yeah, they're just fun, man. And I think you're right. It's hard to find bad things to say about Steph Curry.
Yeah, there's just not.
There's just not, like, what he's done, and he's paved the way for kids who aren't the most gifted athletically.
Right.
And that's not taken away from him at all. Like, he's a professional athlete. Clearly he's extremely gifted, but he's maximized everything that he's been given.
Yeah.
Everything that he's been given, because you have a guy like LeBron or Durant, people look up to them, but they're like, well, shoot, I mean, the dude's almost 7 feet tall. LeBron's 6'9", 6'8". It's hard to relate to them. But then you look at Steph, and he walks down the street. If you didn't know he was an NBA player, he kind of blend in.
Yeah, because he's reminded everybody that he is 6'2" and about 185 pounds.
That's insane.
It's just
That's
crazy,
insane.
you know.
Yeah.
And this is the other thing. And I do want to point this out to, some of our younger listeners, or any listener for that matter, is that your core guys, they brought Iguodala back. They got Draymond and Steph, and even Clay for that matter. So a lot of these new, you got Otto Porter Jr., Jordan Poole, Gary Payton, Kevin Looney, Kaminga. You got Wiggins, Wiseman. These guys are loaded, man. And the cool thing is watching them core guys teach and show these younger guys how to believe in the system and know what your role is and your part to play. And it's things we've talked about for many, many years, or, on the podcast for sure, been recently, but this is proof in the pudding right here. This proves that it works, right? Everybody can't have the ball. You mentioned something about Kevin Durant being there. He's going to want the ball, and rightfully so. I'm not dogging Kevin Durant by any means, but definitely a lot less drama. But I feel like we're getting the same type of results without all the drama,
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun to watch them finish this year. And I hope they do well. I really do. I just feel like it's a great team, a great structured team. I don't know how you could ask for anything more than what they got rolling now. And even if they go into a slump, which I don't foresee that happening. Like you said, they had guys out, not healthy, still beat Phoenix. Phoenix is the only ones right behind them at number 2. Yeah, I don't see it happening, man. And you get Clay back, and Clay comes back as the Clay we know. Dude, it's a wrap, dude. It is a wrap. There is nobody touching that squad, dude. Minus any injuries. There could be key injuries. But yeah, minus that. Yeah, look out.
That's what's scary, bro, is I think it's crazy that I'm about to say this. It's a wrap even if Clay didn't come back.
Yeah. Good point.
That's crazy though. Think about that. It's a wrap even if Clay didn't come back. That, at least based on how they're playing. And you brought up Jordan Poole. I believe it was Jordan Poole and Wiggins who didn't play on Christmas Day. I'm pretty sure it was both of them. And they were still able yeah, and they were still able to go to Phoenix and win on the road. So it's just super impressive. They've been the breath of fresh air for basketball for me.
Yeah.
Is watching the Warriors play basketball, and the Chicago Bulls too.
Yeah.
That'd be so fun just watching those teams go at it. They're just unselfish. And I mean, the trade deadline's February 10th. It'll be interesting to see who does what. It wouldn't be a Clutch Time podcast if we didn't talk about the Lakers.
I was just going to say, oh boy, what's going to happen? First thing when you said that was the Lakers.
The old Lakers.
What's going to happen in LA? LeBron, GM LeBron's going to be Xing some guys out of there. I think Westbrook is going to be the first one with his head in the chopping block with the blade coming down.
Oh, for sure, man. And of course, Anthony Davis, sure enough, injured. And it's not like we like that a man's injured. We never like that, but we called it. It's not hard to call that one. I mean, So here we have LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, quote unquote, leading the show for the Lakers, man. And it's just, and the part that really drives me nuts, man, is SportsCenter, ESPN. They all try they want the Lakers to be good so bad.
I know.
So bad. Like, Lakers will get killed, and all you'll see on the apps and on TV is, oh, LeBron James, 30 points, 7 rebounds. And then you look at the final score and you're like, bro, they literally lost by 20.
Yeah, you go through the highlights. You're like, dang, they actually had a good game. Did they win? No, they got beat by 20. What?
It's just comical at this point, man. And all LeBron's interviews, he's just like, yeah, well, we haven't had our whole team yet. We haven't really played with our whole team yet this year. And I'm like, bro,
Dude, I think they got a pool going that's gonna be hey man, we suck, dude. Hey, why don't you be hurt so I can say that's the reason why? Go take a vacation, go to Vegas or something, man.
Yeah, they're just looking for guys out of retirement, like Ron Artest, people out trying to come in and help the Lakers. It's like, bro, it's a lost cause.
Magic Johnson gets suited up. He's coming back. Oh shoot. Yeah. That's good. Oh goodness. Wow.
It's too much. It's too much. And they're not even close to the lock to make the playoffs. Not even close. I mean, I think they're in 6 right now, but like 6, 7, 8, they're pretty much tied.
No, they beat the pants off the Blazers though, man. And
ooh, they sure did.
That was I'll tell you, I will be shocked. I know Dame's talking about saying he's going to stay in Portland, but I will be shocked if he stays, any longer than he absolutely has to. The Blazers are just another team that's just like, we've been saying it. We said it before the season even started. Something's got to give here. I don't know. Yeah, it's almost like they're keeping Dame hostage. I feel bad for the guy because, in my opinion, outside of Steph Curry, Dame Lillard is the number 2 best player in the league. Now keep in mind, we're talking about guys that aren't, Kevin Durant is, and LeBron James, they're great too. But you got to look at it from my perspective, and this is my thought process on it, is, in my opinion, to be LeBron James's size, I just don't think it wouldn't be that hard to be that good in the NBA, right? The guy's a tight end and in the NFL playing basketball, and he moves. And don't get me wrong, he's worked hard but these guys like Dame Lillard and Steph Curry, these guys that aren't that ginormous guy, but just super athletic, super smart, very crafty with the way they shift from left to right. And then they know where their spots are to hit their shots, and they get there, man. And they make it happen. Now, I also realize Dame hasn't had a great start to the year this year so far, but athletically, I feel like those are my top 2 favorites. Maybe I should say they're my favorites, but I'm not a big LeBron James fan, but that's just me.
I think the Blazers being so bad this year is such a good thing because they always flirt around like they're in the playoffs. They get like the 4, 5, 6 seed.
Yeah.
Good enough to where there's hope that if we just keep this group together, we're gonna make that hump and win that championship. And I think now that they're so bad, it's that point where it's like we either A, completely disrupt this roster, which we should have done a while ago, or B, Dame's gone. And I think that's a great place to be because the longer they hung out in that middle of the pack, good enough to just kind of fill seats and make that kind of playoff run, I think the less pressure they had on them to switch things up, and I think now I'm not convinced that Dame's staying. I know a lot of people are tired of talking about it because he said so many times he's staying, but anybody who's watched professional athletes for long enough knows that that's what they all say until they leave, and then all of a sudden they're gone and you're like, whoa, I thought he was going to stay. But I mean, when you have that much money, giving up a few million here and there to go play for a winning franchise isn't that big of a deal. Dame has secured the bag.
Right.
He has secured the bag, knock on wood. If Dame got hurt, he's fine. You know what I mean? Like he's still not looking to sign that max contract and then he can, like he's secured it. So he's got to think that, and in the back of his mind, it's like, yeah, I have all this money, but what do I really want my legacy to be? And you're right. It's frustrating because he is that good. He is that good to where if he was on a good freaking team, man, it'd be fun to watch.
Man, good thought. But as far as this goes, but I was just thinking, I'm like, huh. So let's say as long as they don't do something like this, like a Russell Westbrook,
Oh god.
let's say Kendrick Nunn, DeAndre Jordan, and Trevor Ariza trade for Dame.
Uh,
Send Dame to LA.
Portland probably would too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would be a typical move, to where some people would be like, wow, those are some good players. And there's some decent players. Kendrick Nunn is actually a tough, but he's only 6'2", about 200 pounds. Westbrook's only 6'3", about 200 pounds. Then Jordan, he's 6'11". Yeah. Anyway, as long as they don't do something stupid like that, I feel like that's dumb. Now, Trevor Ariza, honestly, is probably the most underappreciated player in LA right now. I've always liked him. Yeah, he don't have much of a salary going right now, so he would be a good one to pick up in like a free agency market or if you could get some really good pieces, in addition to him. But
I think
anyway.
there's two places Dame would go. I don't think he would go to California. Definitely obviously not the Warriors. That probably wouldn't be his situation, but I don't
God, I hope not.
oh my gosh. But Miami, which we've talked about before, simply because the culture that Miami has, and they have the assets to go actually and get Damian Lillard. And second one is the New York Knicks.
I was thinking the Knicks too, but man, who do you give up?
I just think that that's a place that Dame would actually want to go to and be the face of the Knicks. Who would they give up? See, I don't know. They'd probably have to send like an Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, some younger guys.
RJ Barrett, who's finally coming on this year. Does Fournier come? No, he's got a $17 million contract. I doubt it. Portland's gonna be like, no, that's too much. They still got Taj Gibson. I don't know. That's the only problem is I just don't see enough there that they would be able to give up. Let me say that right. Kemba Walker's dealt with injuries this year. He's been coming on as of late. Yeah, it would be interesting. I could see it.
Because I think Dame's at the point where when and if he leaves, it's gonna be not a surprise like, oh hey Dame, we're sending you here. I think it's gonna be a mutual agreement. Like he's gonna tell the organization Portland, okay, these are where I want to go. Can you make that happen? And which he's earned that right,
Oh yeah.
If he is gonna leave, like send him off somewhere where he can go do what he wants to do. But I don't know. I just feel like he's the type of guy that would really own New York, and I think it would be kind of cool to see. But I think the most realistic one is probably that Miami when it comes to them actually having stuff to give up for him.
Well, because that's just the thing is it's got to be a team, and that's why I say Miami. I could see it. They have more pieces that I feel like would be more effective. That if they lost a few of them, that they would still be a factor.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like if the Knicks, if you trade for what you're going to have to trade to get Dame, you're going to lose a lot. And then he's going to be back in the same Portland situation in New York, which is worse. It's worse because they have no give, no forgiveness. It's you do it or, and this is that, but I mean, yeah. I mean, Miami's got Hero. Bam Adebayo. I don't know if they get rid of him or not, but probably not. Yeah, that would be interesting because there are some pieces there that they could definitely, bring out here. And Yeah, that'd be interesting. I could see him going to Miami. I think we've said that a few times. That's always been a place that I felt like, Dame would fit well, I guess.
If you had, as long as they just had Dame, Butler, and Bam, there's their big three, and I think that's a very strong-minded big three that would be super tough.
Yeah, especially if you could keep Hero.
Ooh,
if
you could keep Hero with them, game over.
Yeah, it's that
Game
would be
over. I bet Hero would have to leave though.
I think he would too. I think he'd have to go. You'd have to give somebody up.
Yeah,
That's gonna, hurt the team a little bit as far as them leaving. But you get a player like Dame, man. I mean, look what he's been playing with for as many years as he had, on top of the injuries that they've had and all kinds of different issues. But
well, shoot,
be
he's been
interesting.
in the West. He's been in the West.
Yeah, no kidding. So he's had a rough go at it. So with that, my man, this is a wrap. This is episode 12. We appreciate y'all for like, share, subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all for listening. Peace.